What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am Jake Peffer, and I'm joined by my sister,
Christina Cunningham.
and we are back with another ride review. This week, we're going to be looking at the Simpsons Ride at Universal Studios Florida. This opened on May 19th, 2008, and has been a pretty nice addition to Universal Studios. This replaced Back to the Future, the ride, which was a pretty beloved ride. It was one of the original rides from when the park opened, and sadly, when it got taken out, this is what replaced it. But I think it's a pretty worthy replacement for that ride, even though it basically uses the exact same setup. They didn't really change anything. They just added all Simpsons characters and Simpsons stuff to this ride area and the queue and everything. So it's more or less the same ride as Back to the Future with just the Simpsons. So there is that. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, it's a pretty fun ride for the most part. Christina, what do you think about it?
Um, like you were saying, I know like Back to the Future was one of my favorites. So the fact that it's pretty much the same as that, but just, Simpsons version, is I do think since it's been on for such a long period of time, it's just like loved by like people in multiple different generations. So it's like older people can enjoy it while like younger kids are just like kind of starting off maybe watching it and becoming fans, so it's kind of like something for like everybody, or at least something that everybody is like has at least some sort of knowledge about.
Yeah, and I think that it helps with the reasoning why they ended up putting this in place of Back to the Future. Back to the Future is my favorite movie ever. I love all three of them. But sadly, after a while, people may not really be as familiar with those movies just because, with streaming and the way things are in the movie industry now, you typically aren't going to see stuff like that played on TV or find the younger generation to, really see it as much as they once would. Whereas The Simpsons, it's in its 34th season on TV. It's still one of the big things on Fox. It dominates on Sunday nights for Animation Damnation. I can honestly say I've seen every single episode of The Simpsons, so obviously I'm a fan. It's just one of those things where after you've watched 20 seasons of it, you might as well watch the other 14 to go along with it. But yeah, I think that's a testament as to why they chose this property to put in its place, is because it's something that transcends generations. It started in the late 80s and is still going on today. So you have so many different generations and ages that can enjoy something like this. And I think that's a testament to why they chose to go this route and get, arguably some of the most iconic characters in animated history and go ahead and give them their own ride.
Yeah, and then I think just like in the area too, kind of surrounding it, it's like you can kind of enjoy other stuff from the show as well. Like even if you don't want to like do the ride, because you can do like Duff beer, get like the donuts and all that, or like a crusty burger and all that. So I just think that they kind of worked like the whole section together really well too, to incorporate like all like the big things from like the TV show. Because like you say, I mean, it is in the what 34th season, so it's like I feel like it's a good little area that kind of represents like the show as a whole in a way.
Yeah, I was glad to see that they added in Springfield to this area because when it first opened, it was still the World Expo area, which is what
So
Back to the Future was in. And that was still there for the first 5 years of this ride was in its spot. It wasn't until 2013 that they added in all the Springfield stuff. And yeah, it's awesome because you have Moe's Tavern. You can go in there and get a flaming Moe. You can get a Duff beer. You can get a Krusty Burger. They have a nice little like court area where you can go in and you have Krusty Burger, the Frying Dutchman, Luigi's Pizza, like all kinds of different foods. And it's theme park food, but it's a little bit better than your typical theme park food. It's not just like bottom barrel, food. It's actually pretty decent, especially for it being a food court type area. And I think it's great that they added in all this stuff because I think it works well for the park and it helps the ride as well. Just have its nice own little area. It kind of makes you almost immersed in the world of The Simpsons. They even added in a small kids ride, Kang and Kodos's Hurl and Twirl, which is basically like a little Dumbo ride where you're on these little flying saucers. It's the only ride I have yet to experience at Universal Studios, but now that I have a kid and another one on the way, maybe at some point I'll get to experience just how great it might actually be.
It'll work out one day for you. So
Oh yeah, I look forward to it. Now, as far as the ride itself, like I said, it's a pretty fun ride. It's not one of my favorites, but it's one I definitely always plan to do every time we go to Universal. Um, Mainly because I try to ride everything I can, regardless of how good I actually think it is. Looking at you, Fast and Furious, but that's for another episode. Anyway, but yeah, this one, like I said, is kind of the same setup as the Back to the Future ride. So if you never got a chance to experience that, this more or less does the same thing. It's just, in the world of The Simpsons and it's animated versus a, live action movie or whatever you want to call it. Um, but you basically get in a car that's set up to be kind of like a little car on a roller coaster, and you follow the Simpsons while they're at an amusement park where they're getting attacked by Sideshow Bob, who's one of the big villains on the series. And you go with them all throughout the amusement park, eventually going back into Springfield and into their home and town and everything. And it's a fun little 4 to 5 minute ride. It's got some stuff that's fun to look at. It's a little odd watching, so you have like the pre-show and stuff beforehand, which has some great jokes. The writing for this I think is top notch. It's really
mhm.
funny. But it's a little weird watching the 2D animation in the pre-show and everything out in the queue, and then watching the actual ride and it's 3D animated, so it's a little off-putting there, watching the Simpsons, who never are 3D animated, be that. But just a small little gripe. And this is basically a simulator ride. It just, you're in front of a giant IMAX screen and the car bounces around, shakes, rattles, and rolls in conjunction with what's happening on the screen. And it's perfectly fine. It's just not anything amazing. I don't know how you feel about it, but like I said, it's a good like mid-level ride. There's nothing overly special about it. It's funny, it's fun at times, but it's not anything to wait over an hour for. Definitely keep it in if it's 30 minutes or less, absolutely. But anything higher than that, you're probably not going to enjoy it quite as much as because you had to wait so long.
And plus, since Florida gets crazy hot, like it's the queue is mostly shaded or indoors. So I mean, if you want to break from the heat and all that, it's kind of a good like something to kind of fit in between other things, just if you want to get like some time out of the sun and whatnot. So
Yeah, there is a good portion of it that is outside, but like you said, it's mostly covered. And then when you get into the main part where you're in line basically to go into your room to get on the ride, that's when you eventually get inside, which is nice. But like I said, they have TVs and stuff that, for one, play one of my favorite episodes of The Simpsons where they go to Itchy and Scratchy Land. And then when you get more closer to the entrance where you actually get on the ride, there's little videos that just kind of play things that tie in with the Simpsons getting in the amusement park that they're at, and then Sideshow Bob making his way to try to take over the park, and yada yada yada, so on and so forth. At least while you're waiting, it's enjoyable and it's not just a drag like some other rides can be.
yeah, and that's like one thing that I like about at least most of the rides with like Universal is like the queues are actually can be pretty interesting and kind of well, I feel like some of the other rides are a little bit has a little bit more than like the Simpsons, but it's like at least you have something to kind of like not necessarily distract yourself, but it's just it you can kind of stay entertained like while you're waiting for whatever happens to, whatever happens to be.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And The Simpsons could use a little bit more, but compared to other parks and some other rides I've waited for, this does have some nice theming. If even it could use a little bit more to it. Um, It'll be interesting to see how this ride does in the next few years because I believe the contract for this ride with Universal is through 2028,
Uh,
and we know now that Disney obviously owns the rights to The Simpsons, so it'll be interesting to see if this ride eventually gets taken out in the next 5 years or so, and then if Disney maybe tries to jump in and put their own little Simpsons world in one of their parks. Might be interesting,
sure.
but it's kind of the same thing with Marvel Superhero Island at Islands of Adventure. That's still there, but only time will tell if Disney somehow makes some kind of move where they can get all those characters and put them in their Florida parks as well.
No, yeah, that's true. You never know when something like that's gonna change things up for the theme parking game and whatnot, especially when it comes, to between Universal and Disney. So
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they want to play too nice, but so far it's been okay, I guess.
yeah.
So, on our thrill rating scale, what would you give The Simpsons ride?
um, I would probably say like a three, mainly just because, like, I mean, there is like a little oomph to it, but it's not like too much, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm almost right there with you. I'd probably go about a 2.5 out of 5. It's a perfect ride to get out of the sun and do something, to kill some time. Like I said, it's funny. It's got some entertaining moments. The ride itself isn't the greatest just because it is a simulator. I'm not the biggest fan of simulators, despite Universal Orlando having a lot of simulator rides. That's pretty much what they all are. But I would have rather seen more of a dark ride, like if you're going to use screens, do something like a Transformers or a Spider-Man, something in that vein. I think would have worked a lot better versus just sitting in front of the screen shaking for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Those they have their place and they can be fun, but they just don't really do a whole lot for me. And this is one that just happens to have characters that I like in the ride, so I think that amps it up a little bit for me overall.
yeah, that's true.
That's going to do it from us, guys. If you have ridden the Simpsons ride, please let us know what you thought about it in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and look out for more of our videos coming in the near future. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. I'll leave the links down below on where you can follow us there. And be sure to tune in next Monday for our next ride review. And we will catch you all later.